Good evening, everyone. It's almost, well, it is the weekend. Not for me, though, because I'm still at work. But we've got a big game tomorrow, Newcastle against Arsenal. I've got Richard, the Arsenal fan, from over and over at Arsenal. I was on his stream last night. It was a great show, and we're going to pick up where we left off and carry on tonight. And I've got Craig, as ever, as my NUFC fan. So this is the look. Evening, everyone. That gets me pumped up. So before I bring the guys in, I'll do my usual rubbish. So it's a free prize for when I hit 500 subscribers. I'm nearly there. I'm only 247 away. As soon as I hit that 500, you could win that retro Newcastle shirt, Peter Beardsley signed card. It's got 3 pictures of him on. Brilliant prize. And Alan Shearer's testimonial program. Not signed, unfortunately. If I get it signed, I'd keep it. But that's all about £100 worth of free goodies for anyone who's lucky enough to be a subscriber to my channel. And when I hit 500, I'll do a live draw, pick somebody out. So let's bring the boys in. Richard from Arsenal. Thanks for joining, Richard. We had a great chat last night, and we're going to pick up where we left off. Are you comfortable tonight?
Yeah, no. So last night was great. Yeah, it was great to be on my channel, and it's great to be on your channel tonight. Looking forward to it. Yeah, it should be good. I was just wondering, actually, in your intro there, you obviously got Kevin Keegan and Rafa Benitez and Bobby Robson. I just wonder where Steve Bruce was. I was waiting for him to come up.
That's almost a 5-minute sin bin, that, man. Well, I'll let you off. Let's bring Craig in. Evening, Craig. How are you tonight?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. On the Steve Bruce Richards, that's the next picture comes up as no hope.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was waiting for the caption underneath what it was going to say.
I'm not as clever as you, though, Richard, I'm afraid. I had to pay for my intro. I know you do your own, and the one that you had last night was brilliant. Because obviously you must tweak it around for whenever you get people on. It was very, very good.
Yeah, I just do a different one for each show if I can, and just replace the pictures with different people and different stuff. So, yeah, I'll just do that. But awesome. No, your intro is great, actually. I like that. It's cool.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? Gets you going.
It does.
Evening, yeah, Russ. Thanks for joining us. Evening, Dave. Hope you're well as well, mate. Oh, Chippers has turned up. Let's have a look. The caption of Bruce would just be... he holds no punches, Chippers. I expect that from him, to be fair. We do poll show on a Monday night, and Chippers is very dark at that, when it comes to that show. So I do try and keep this one as clean as possible. Evening, Andy from Greece. Well, from Newcastle, obviously, but he's in Greece at the moment. So first thing I want to kick off with is this man, Alan Shearer. I know he's got nothing to do with the game tomorrow, but rightly so, next to Thierry Henry in the Hall of Fame. If I was to pick 2 strikers in a 4-4-2, I'd pick Henry and Shearer without a shadow of a doubt. And Alan Shearer, 260 Premier League goals. He's the greatest goal scorer the Premier League's ever seen, hands down. Richard, what's your thoughts on that man tearing your defence apart over the years?
Funnily enough, I mean, he's even said it himself. I don't think he scored that many goals against Arsenal, did he, in his career? I think he only scored once at Highbury, and he got a few at St James's. I know I think that's why he's always negative about Arsenal on Match of the Day, actually. That's what I think it is. Yeah. Hi, Russ, how you doing? Thanks for tuning in, mate. He's a good lad, Russ. But no, and obviously the record speaks for itself, doesn't it? I mean, 260 Premier League goals, as you said, he certainly deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I personally would have Dennis Bergkamp with Thierry Henry as my front 2 in a Premier League all-time 11, but then I'm biased, I suppose, aren't I? But maybe have a front 3 with the 3 of them in, maybe. Bergkamp just behind, maybe that'd be quite good.
That would be awesome, that.
Yeah.
I can't actually argue against that, to be fair. I mean, personally, I'd probably put Peter Beardsley instead of Bergkamp, but that's just me being biased.
Yeah,
Craig, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can argue with Shearer and Henry as the 2 founding members, can you, really? I mean, Alan Shearer, 260 goals, his record speaks for itself. Henry, what he did for Arsenal coming in, and, he just revolutionised that team when he signed. And Wenger took him from a winger to a striker, and just the abilities he had. I mean, he didn't, he scored goals, he made goals. He was a beautiful footballer, but he couldn't quite get the number of goals that Warral did. But that's going to take some beating that record.
Well, Harry Kane's not far away from it, is he? If he stays fit, he's got a chance. See, Russ agrees with us, Richard.
No, he was. I say you can't argue with his goal record. I just don't like he's very negative about Arsenal when he's kind of on Match of the Day and stuff like that. So I've maybe got a little bit of a being me bonnet about him. But obviously, as a player, he was fantastic. His goals record's unbelievable. So yeah, he did play a lot more games than Thierry Henry, though. Thierry Henry didn't manage the number of goals, but he didn't play as many games. So I don't know what. I think Thierry Henry's got a better goals per game ratio. Actually, I read that somewhere. But even so, they are probably the two best strikers in the Premier League history. So they definitely.
If I was to pick a front two to complement each other, Shearer with his power and his finishing, and then you got Henry with his grace and his pace. That would work so well. It's a shame we never got to see them together. We could have bought them. Would have been nice.
Yeah.
Could you imagine? Oh God, if only. Yeah. Let's jump on to this man, Richard. So I know we had a bit of a discussion about him last night, but from our side of things, he was in line for taking the job before Bruce, and he was one of our top targets, and he turned us down. I don't blame him, because you'd have to work with Mike Ashley, and I don't think he could do that. Now, I know you're sitting obviously 11th in the league at the present moment because of the Villa game, but it's got you into a semi-final of a UEFA Cup, so potential Champions League football if you win it. Would you class it as a successful season if you go on to win that cup and finish where you are in the league, or do you still see it as a bad season?
I personally feel that for Arsenal being 11th in the league, it's not over yet. We may finish a bit higher, but we could finish a bit lower as well. But I think that's not a good enough season for Arsenal in the Premier League. Yes, we've done okay in the Europa League. I personally believe we've had a fairly straightforward draw, if I'm honest. The group stage, we had the easiest group we've ever had, and we won that comfortably. And in the knockout stage, we haven't really come up against top quality sides, and we've struggled to get through all the rounds so far. And it looks like we're going to struggle to get through this one. We still might, and we might get to the final, and we'll have to play Man United. But I'm not convinced by Arteta. I didn't actually know that he had turned down Newcastle. Actually, I wish he'd maybe gone there instead, because I don't think he's the right man for Arsenal. I don't think he's got the experience that we've needed. Obviously, Arsenal got a lot of problems at the moment. We've had problems building up over years, not just with the playing side, behind the scenes as well, but certainly in the squad and on the pitch. It was a big job. Unai Emery couldn't quite manage it, and he's an experienced manager with a lot of success in Europe. And there was no real opportunity, I didn't feel, for someone like Arteta to come in and do that job. I didn't think he was experienced enough to do it. We needed somebody who's been there and done it and understood what it takes to make a club, work with what you've got and get the best out of them. And I don't think Arteta's done that. Not enough. I mean, you look at some of the players, for example, Gabriel Martinelli was brilliant when he first came in under Unai Emery. He hardly plays him now. Aubameyang's gone backwards this season in particular. He's certainly not scoring as many goals as he was under Unai Emery and under Arsene Wenger before that. And I don't know, a lot of players he's not improved the players that he had already. And some of the signings that have been made since he's come in haven't really set the world on fire. Thomas Partey still not really found his feet yet. Gabriel had a good start, and he's been a bit hit and miss since. And, it's not quite working out for him. And, a lot of people think he needs more time because, there's been a lot of problems this season with the COVID situation, no fans and everything else. It's been a tough season, I think, anyway, for everyone. But having said that, there's 10 teams above us in the league. They've had the same problems that we've had in terms of the situation with no fans and this, that, and the other. And we're still below a lot of teams in the league that have got, for me, not as good squads on paper of the players that we've got. We should be higher up. We should be in the top 6. We should be challenging for the top 4 with the players that we've got in our squad. And the reason that we aren't, for me, is 90% down to the way they're being coached and the way the team's set up. You saw that the other night with playing with no striker in a Champions Europa League semi-final. And it just goes to show that I think he's a good coach. I think Arteta. I think he learned a lot from working under Pep. But I think as a manager, as a number one out in the front, I don't think he's there yet. He might well make it in a few years' time, but I don't want Arsenal to be an experiment. And let's give him work experience for 4 years, and the club goes backwards and becomes not where it needs to be. But as you pointed it quite rightly out there, we're in the semi-final Europa League. If we was to somehow manage to win that, we would be in the Champions League next season. That's ultimately what his remit was for his job, is to get Arsenal back in the Champions League. Any manager that comes into Arsenal, that's got to be their first task. And if he achieves that, he's got to stay in the job, hasn't he? He's got to. I don't think we can sack him. But if we don't win it and we do finish 11th or 10th or 12th, wherever it might be in the league, then I don't think he's done enough. I think we've scraped through the Europa League. That's maybe kept him in the job longer than it may have done if we got knocked out. We were 10 minutes away. Well, no, 3 minutes away from getting knocked out against Benfica in a couple of rounds back. And if we got knocked out then, I think that might have been it for him by now. So it's I mean, a little bit of a dilemma with him. I like Arteta. I think he's a nice guy. He clearly is a good coach. I'm just not sure if he's got the experience that we need as a club to move us forward in the. I mean, if we get in the Champions League next season, are we ready to compete in that when we've just finished mid-table in the Premier League? Clearly not. You know, we might get through the group stage maybe if we get a good draw, but as soon as we come up against a Bayern Munich or a Barcelona or a PSG or whatever it might be, we're going to get knocked out. And yes, the money would be great. But the club at this moment in time aren't in a position to compete in the Champions League. And part of that is down to what Arteta has done over the last 18 months. He hasn't got us in a position to be able to compete in it. And even if we get in it, it's only really a financial side that I'd be excited about, because I'd rather be in the Europa League in a strange way, because we can compete in that. You know, we've reached the semi-final, we reached the final before, and we've reached the semi-final before that. So we've got a good record in that. I'd rather be in that, and at least we've got a chance of winning it. We've got no chance of winning the Champions League, not with this team, not without spending a lot of money, which we're not going to do. So, but with Arteta, I'm still on the fence a little bit with him. He's not done enough for me. I'm baffled by a lot of his team selections and his tactics, and he's got to prove a lot more before I think he's going to. Before I can say he's going to be the right man for the club, he's got to do a lot more for me. He's got to prove a lot more. This season has been a bit of a disaster all round, actually, and the Europa League might well be the saving grace for everybody at the club, for him, for the owners, for the fans, for everybody, the players. But we've still got a lot of work to do. We've got a second leg to try and turn around, and potentially then a final against a Manchester United team that are in good form. So it's not going to be easy, is it? Either way, but he's got. If he pulls it out of the bag, then to be fair, then maybe I'll start to think maybe he has got a little bit more about him than I thought. But he's got a lot to prove still, and only probably 2 games to prove it now. The semi-final, second leg, and the final possibly, and that's it. So
yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, looking at your record against Man United this season, you seem to be a bit of a bogey team for them. There's a very good chance a lot of the Man United fans I work with are actually scared of meeting you in the final. They'd rather have Villarreal.
Are they?
So, yeah.
Well, I mean, no, we have had a good record. Since Arteta's been manager of Arsenal, I think he's played Man United 3 times and he's won 2 and drawn 1. So he's got a good record against Man United. Yeah. So since he's been manager of Arsenal, but I don't know. I mean, I think either of those 2 teams in the final, if Roma managed to somehow sneak through, would be a tough game for us the way that we're playing at the moment. But I mean, I'll be surprised if Man United are really worried about playing us. Really, I don't think I'd be worried about playing us. I'd rather play us than Villarreal, if I'm totally honest, just because I think Villarreal have got Unai Emery as a coach who's won this competition three times in history. He knows how to win it. He got us to the final a couple of years ago. He's in another semi-final. He's only ever lost 1 game in the Europa League, I think, in his entire career. So, you know, you wouldn't really want to come up against him. He showed the other night, yes, you know, the second half didn't go his way so much, but he showed the other night why he's done well in this competition, because he knows how to get results when it matters. And I wouldn't want to play him in the final if I was Man United personally, but let's hope they are playing us and that we do beat them. But you know, I wouldn't be worried about playing us if I'm totally honest. I wouldn't be.
You just never know. You never know.
Well, no, you know,
brings me on. You did mention this man, and for me, he signed that contract and everything's gone wrong. You know, he got that big money move that he wouldn't have say move. He got the big money contract that he wanted. And ever since he signed it on that dotted line, everything's gone backwards for him. And I was expecting him to be challenging for top goal scorer this year. I mean, what's happened? I don't understand it. Last season, especially, he was one of the best strikers in the league. I thought Real Madrid bound, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I mean, you know, the first full season he was at Arsenal, he won the Golden Boot. Last season, he was 1 goal off winning the Golden Boot again. I think he was 1 behind Jamie Vardy in the end. So, yeah, he's been one of the top goal scorers in the Premier League for the last 2 seasons. And this season, yeah, he signed his contract and it does seem to have gone wrong since then. Is that connected to it? Is it another Ozil situation? I don't know. It could be. He's had a few issues off the pitch. I know in his personal life, I think his mum was ill and he had a few issues going on there, which maybe distracted him from the football. Obviously, he's just getting back from malaria as well. So he's had illness problems as well. But obviously his poor form was going on before all of that anyway. So something's not right with him. For me, the one thing I liked about Aubameyang was He always played with a smile on his face. He looks like he was enjoying himself playing for Arsenal. Always. He always looked like that. This season, very rarely have we seen that smile. He's looked a completely different character in himself. And is that because of his personal issues, or is there something else going on? Or is it now he's got his contract, he thinks, well, I don't need to bother anymore? I don't know. But for me, as captain of Arsenal, he hasn't done enough this season. For whatever the reason, if you're captain of a club, you know, in the Premier League, one of the big English clubs, you've got to put your other issues aside. I mean, for example, Tony Adams had a lot of personal issues, as everyone knows about, but he could still be captain of Arsenal, and he could still portray that on the pitch in the right way. And Aubameyang, if he wants to be captain of Arsenal, he's got to be able to put his personal issues to one side, certainly for the 90 minutes the game's on, and be a captain on the pitch. And that's my biggest issue with him. Yes, I want him to score more goals, of course, but it's more, you want your captain to lift everybody around you when things aren't going well. It's easy when you're scoring goals and you're winning games. You don't need a captain then, really, anyway. Anybody can do it. When you're losing and things are going against you, you need your captain to lift everybody and get more out of your teammates. That's what all the great captains have done over the years, haven't they? That's what made them great captains. And I'm not saying that Aubameyang's a great captain anyway. I don't think he was before. But the minimum you expect from your captain is that regardless of how you're playing yourself, regardless of what's going on around you, you've got to be able to lift the people around you and be an inspiration, if nothing else, by what you do on the pitch or what you do, you know, off the pitch around it. And he was late turning up for a game, North London derby as well. It's unacceptable in itself as a player, let alone as a captain. And there's too many things going on that haven't been dealt with. I don't think Arteta's got the strong enough character to deal with these difficult issues. You know, he's shown that with the Ozil situation, he didn't handle particularly well. He's not handling this situation, but yes, he did drop in for that one game. But I don't know. If I was Arteta, I know it's easy to say when you're not, but I would have took the captaincy off of Aubameyang just literally for being late for that game. I'd have said, sorry, that's not acceptable for an Arsenal captain. That's it. Arteta used to be captain of Arsenal. He should know what the standards are. And he's allowed Aubameyang to let those standards slip and get away with it. You know, he won't even let Xhaka be captain now when Aubameyang's not playing, when no one else is playing. He'd give it to Rob Holding. Granted, Xhaka should be captain, but he won't give it to him because of all that incident that happened before. And yet he keeps Aubameyang as captain when he's late. And apparently that's not the only time he's been late. I just don't understand it for me. You've got to make a stand. You've got to say that's not acceptable. And you've got to sort yourself out. And maybe him being out of the team recently with his illness, maybe he's going to come back at the end of the season. And, you know, maybe that's going to be the difference. He might get the goals in the semi-final to get us through and score and win him in the final again, like last year in the FA Cup. And that might be, you know, that's job done, I suppose, in a way. But I don't know. It's be interesting to see what happens next season with Aubameyang. I think this season's a write-off for him anyway, for whatever reason. Is he going to get his head back right for next year and be the Aubameyang we knew before? Or is this going to carry on? And if it does, if he starts next season the same, I would be looking at getting rid of him in January if that was the case. But we know what he can do, so we want him to get it right. We want him to get his head right and get it sorted. But that's Arteta's job. One of his jobs is to get the best out of what you've got, and he's got to sort this out with Aubameyang one way or the other. And if it means having to sell him on, maybe that's what has to happen. If that's, you know, because he's had problems before, hasn't he, Aubameyang? He had problems at Dortmund. He refused to play and wanted to leave. And I don't know whether it's the same at Arsenal. He certainly is not the same player he was. He's certainly not as happy as he was. And unfortunately, it's become a big problem this season, one of many problems that we've had. And, you know, he's an important player. So it needs to be sorted one way or the other. And I don't know, Arteta's got another big job there as well to sort out. And I don't know what's gone on with him, actually, because I'm shocked at how poor he's been. Because look at his career. The goals he scores every single season for, 10 years now. Regularly 35 goals, 40 goals for Dortmund a few times. He's got 30 goals for Arsenal a couple of times. And to suddenly go down to what? He's got about 14 this season. And he's been lucky to get half of them, really. I suppose it's not a great record. Look, he's missed a lot of games this year, but his performances have been poor as well. And even if he finishes with 16, 17 goals, which he might do if he plays the rest of the season, he could get a few more. Still not really good enough for a player of his quality with his goal-scoring record in his career. But it's a big issue and it needs to be sorted out. But I don't really know why. Is it the contract? Maybe, I don't know.
I just think he got comfortable, and that's. But again, like you mentioned, some things that I didn't realise. You know, things about COVID and stuff like that, and family issues. Again, we forget footballers aren't robots; they are human. They do get affected by things like this. If you can't travel home to see your family, it's obviously had a bit of effect on them. So yeah. Craig, you're looking very sunstroke today, by the way, mate. I've seen how you've got a bit of sun on your face, mate, up in the northeast as well.
Yeah. It must have been when I was there mowing the lawn. I don't know. Feel a little bit hot.
What's your thoughts on Aubameyang, like from a Newcastle point of view, looking from the outside inwards?
Yeah, I mean, he's a quality player, and you know, as Richard said, you know, he's scored a lot of goals wherever he's been. At Dortmund, he was banging them in. Before there, he was at Monaco and even AC Milan. I think he's played for big clubs and scored big goals and scored lots of goals. And Arsenal tracked him for a while, and they paid big money for him, and he came in and he hit the ground running as well, didn't he? It didn't take long before he was banging them in, and like you said, he finished top scorer in his first season. He was pretty close last year, and there was all that talk of his new contract and whether he was going to get it and what was going to happen, and the kind of being bitten by the Ozil thing, and it was like a weird kind of situation, wasn't it? It's like, do we sacrifice all this and bow down and give him his contract? But like you say, since he's signed his contract, he hasn't really done anything, and you know, he's had the illnesses and the things that you said in the background there. But at the end of the day, he's got to be performing on the pitch, doesn't he? You know, and he's, like you say, he's a captain. He's got to be leading by example. And I mean, we've got a captain at the minute who's not exactly, putting in the biggest shift and the greatest performances. But you know, that's kind of what you want as a fan, as somebody to see your captain. And like you say with Xhaka, he might be error prone and be a bit dodgy with that, but he puts everything into every performance that he puts in. So you can kind of you can accept the odd mistake or a poor game if you're running around and putting your effort in. Where Aubameyang, he's turning up late or whatever he's up to, and he's not scoring the goals, which that's what he's basically in the team for. And it's in Arsenal, the last few seasons haven't really, in the league, they haven't performed particularly well. They've had some mid-table, like high finishes, but they've been outside the Champions League. And the cup, even the end of the Wenger era, the cups, winning the cups was the kind of thing that was keeping them going. And it looks as though it's carrying on. But they're a big team and they're a good team. And like you said, Richard, the squad that they've got is better than 11th. There's a lot of teams over there you'd easily have, and I think it's hard. Somebody like, the minute you've got Arteta and Emery coming in, following somebody like Wenger, I think Man United have had the same problem with following Ferguson. They've been there that long and put that many foundations in place that for somebody new, somebody different to come in and, how much of your own stamp can you put into it? And I think before Arteta came in, I think Ancelotti as well, wasn't it? I think Everton and Arsenal had to. So in hindsight, you'd maybe think Ancelotti, he's got a record, he knows exactly what to do. That might well have been the better opportunity. But like a few people said, there's no doubt that Arteta, he's a good coach. He's been with Pep for however long he was there at Man City. So I mean, he's definitely got something about him that he can come in and maybe needs a couple of seasons to settle into it. But football these days, you haven't got 2 seasons to mess around and play around and find your feet. You've got to, day one, take the bull by the horns and get results and perform to the best ability as a player, as a manager. And you're not doing it. And like you say, being in the Europa League semi-final, possibly qualifying for the Champions League through the back door, kind of glosses over the poor season. And I think, we're in the Champions League. That's what we were expecting to do. We've got round it in the back door, but that's, like you said, essentially that's what he was put there for. Win things. You've won the Europa League, get into the Champions League, which it's 2 in there. So it's like you say, can you sack him after winning the Europa League and qualifying for the Champions League? It's a tough one to call, but it's.
If you were Abramovich, he would.
Well,
but depends on the ambition of the club, doesn't it? I suppose, and the owners. At the end of the day, I suppose Arteta won the FA Cup last season. If he wins another trophy this season, you can't really argue with that in a sense, because that's 2 trophies in his first season and a half at the club. I mean, that would be a great record. But then on the counter side of that, we finished 8th last season in the league. We're going to probably finish lower this year in the league. So we're not progressing in the Premier League. And the football overall has been pretty mundane, pretty dull football to watch as well. So it's not like, we're losing games, but playing exciting football that's good to watch. It's been pretty dull, actually, as well on top of that. So, the 2 trophies are great. And, you can never get enough of winning trophies, whatever trophy that is. So, he's done 1 and he may well do 2, and that would be incredible, really, when such an inexperienced coach. So he's clearly got something about him, but maybe not consistently enough, and that's maybe partly down to the squad as well. Not getting consistent results in the league. But again, like I said before, I believe even with the players he's got in at the moment, we should be a lot higher in the league. We should be challenging for the top 4. When you look at the way this season's gone, and you look at some of the teams above us, West Ham, for example, they're in a great chance of the top 4. I don't think they've got a stronger squad than us, particularly. Other teams above us, Everton are above us. You mentioned Everton, actually, and funny enough, obviously Ancelotti and Arteta took over the 2 clubs at the same time, the same week. And I felt as though it should have been the other way around, because Arteta was a former Everton player as well. In fact, he played for Everton a lot more than he played for Arsenal. And it would have been maybe a good project for him, because the expectations are slightly less in terms of if he finished 7th or 8th in the league for Everton, that's probably not too bad with their recent history. Yeah. And if Ancelotti had come into Arsenal, he was the experienced manager that we needed. And maybe they should have been the other way around, and it might have worked out better for us. And it wouldn't have probably done Everton too much damage either, because I don't think he'd have done any worse for Everton than what they're doing anyway, really, necessarily, with the squad they've got, and the expectations would be lower. So, if he'd won the FA Cup with Everton last season, that would have been happy days, wouldn't it? That'd have been over the moon with that.
Can you imagine if a Newcastle manager won the FA Cup, he'd get a statue? Even if it was Steve Bruce, he would still get a statue outside St James's Park if he won the FA Cup. I think everything would be forgiven if anyone wins a trophy for us. It'll be immense. Yeah. And you guys just keep throwing them away every season. I've won the FA Cup, or we've won the Europa League.
I know. I must admit, I feel bad about dismissing the FA Cup, because I love the FA Cup. Actually, I love it, and we've won it quite a few times recently as well. And it's a great competition to win. But I suppose when you've experienced some of the things that we've experienced as Arsenal fans in terms of winning the Premier League and going unbeaten and all that kind of stuff, just winning an FA Cup now, finishing 8th or 9th in the league, it doesn't seem quite enough for Arsenal with the stadium that we've got and the history that we've got and all that kind of stuff. So, I feel bad about feeling like that, because we should be grateful to see Arsenal win anything. Like you just said there, if you won an FA Cup, it would be the greatest day you've ever had as a Newcastle fan. It would be, yeah, and it should be, because it's a great competition to win. And maybe with the fact we've won it so many times, you think, I don't win the FA Cup again. Can't we win something else? And it's bad to feel like that, and it makes me feel bad, because I know that I've been fortunate. I've supported Arsenal. Well, I've been going to Arsenal 40 years this year, and I've seen us win pretty much everything. Not enough European trophies, I'll be honest, but we've won. I've seen us win the Premier League, the FA Cup. I've seen us win the League Cup. I've seen us win a European trophy. So there's not much more I can experience, and I've been fortunate. And I know, other fans of our clubs would have loved to have experienced after things that we've managed to do. But ultimately, then that changes your expectations. I mean, when I first started going to Arsenal in the early 1980s, Arsenal wasn't going to win anything. We was nowhere near winning things. And I used to look at Liverpool every year winning a league and thinking, if only I could ever experience Arsenal doing that once. And now, 40 years later, I've seen us win it 5 times, and now I'm dissatisfied with everything. And it's gone a full circle, really. But when you've experienced it, you can't take that away, and you want it again, don't you? Because it's a great feeling, and it's to be the best team in the league is a fantastic feeling. You can't beat that as a football fan. And when you've had it, you want it again, and you want to. And when you finish in 10th in the league, it's like, that's not enough. That's not good enough. We've won the league. We should be. We shouldn't be below West Ham. We shouldn't be below Leicester in the league. I know Leicester won the Premier League, but Daisy probably no. Of course you would. Most fans, apart from maybe Man United fans, Chelsea fans, maybe over the last 10 years, and probably Man City fans, everyone would swap with Arsenal for what I've experienced in my lifetime watching Arsenal. I've been fortunate, and I know I have, but I still moan because I want to keep being fortunate.
Yeah,
and,
of course.
At the moment, it's not quite going as you hope. And as Shane says, he's right. It's been our worst. It's been our worst season. We did finish 12th once, actually, so it might not necessarily be statistically our worst, but certainly it's been our worst in terms of the football that we've played. I definitely agree with that. It's been dire. I've not enjoyed it at all in the Premier League whatsoever.
I was going to say, this has probably been our worst season as well, to be fair. Even last year, we fluked more points than what we've got at this
but you've got
stage,
relegated in recent years, so that's got to be a worse season. If they're getting relegated, it's got to be worse than finishing just above the relegation. Surely it has. I don't know. I've not experienced relegation.
Yeah, true.
But
I'm just thinking of the last few years. This is our 4th year in the Premier League now in a row. So looking over the last just couple of years, this has been shocking. But yeah, we've been relegated twice because we thought this was going to be the 3rd time, to be fair. So we've got away with one. But yeah, in the last few years, this has been a horrible season. Very horrible. It's not been good. But bringing on to another guy who's he is an Arsenal player, but we absolutely adore him. Joe Willock is on fire at the moment when he comes off the bench for a few minutes. Craig, what are your thoughts on signing him permanently? Are you a massive 100% get him through the door, or are you still sort of, he's done it from the bench, what else can he do?
Yeah, I mean, I think, he's still pretty young. He's 21, is he? 2021, he's performed reasonably well when he has started, when he, obviously that stat there is coming off the bench and getting equalizers and match winners. Not everybody can do that, and a number of substitutes get made during the season, and how many can come on and get the winner and perform like that? So, there's definitely something about him. He's a good talent. He's young. He's English. I think at the minute, that's the benefit over anything else. And we touched on it last week. And if Arsenal are wanting 20 million for him, I think that's the kind of market value for him. Really, it's you can go abroad and buy some foreigner for 8, 9, 10 million, but you don't know what they're going to do when they turn up. How they're going to settle in. He's English. He speaks the language. He's got Premier League experience. I don't think there's many other young English players you could buy for 20 million. I think Jude Bellingham went to Dortmund for a similar amount, and he's an England international, and everybody's thinking he's the bee's knees. So Willock's probably not on that kind of level, but he's a decent player. He's a squad player. He's got something about him. It looks like he's enjoying playing football in Newcastle. Like you say, the fans, we enjoy him, what he's doing, putting in the effort in. So it, again, like what Richard said, it goes down to ambition. And if Mike Ashley wants to finish 17th next season, and we'll probably sign somebody else. If they want to finish a bit higher, you need to go out and you need to spend 100 million every season, really, just to be standing still. Because if you don't spend 100 million on players, then everybody else around you is going to spend 100 million. And if you're 17th this season and don't spend that money, you're not going to do any better next season. So, these are the kind of players that we need to be signing. I don't know who else we've been linked with. I think there's a few other players I've seen over
the centre back at Celtic.
Yeah, Celtic. I think there's one in Holland as well. I think a couple of, again, they're going to cost you 10, 15 million. And
exactly.
How do you know what they're going to do? Whereas, this guy's going to come in and, I don't know whether Arsenal, what else they've got in the squad. I think they're probably looking at, they've got quite a few other young English players who have probably had a bit of more experience within the first team at Arsenal. What else they've got?
Milton Niles comes to mind.
Yeah, Nathan Niles and Willock. Not Willock, sorry. They've got Saka and Reece Nelson and players like that. But I think if you're Arsenal and you want to be going for the title and winning things, you're probably looking at better players than Willock. And if you can get 20 million off your hands, off the player, and then, that opens up some money to get better players who are going to push £20 million for us for a player is going to take us from 17th to 15th, but it's not really going to make Arsenal that much better. So, we'll happily take him off your hands for 20 million.
I've heard that they're trying to get 25, which I think will put us off, because I've heard our budget's 25 plus player sales. And if it's 25 plus player sales and we're linked with 3 players, we're only getting 1 or 2 of them. We're not getting all 3 of them.
Well, that's the thing, it's like, with 20 million in a season, that's not a great amount of, like you say, you get 20 million, that's one player really, isn't it? Or do you go for these 2 other players? It depends where you want to strengthen your squad as well. I think we do look a little bit light in that midfield. There isn't a great deal I don't think we've got a great deal of depth throughout the squad. Maybe centre back, we actually do have a bit of depth, but none of them are particularly outstanding that you would put your hat on and say these 2 or 3 need to be starting every game. And then you say player sales. Who have we got that's saleable? You're only looking at ASM or Almiron or Wilson, really. Who are you going to make any money off? The other players, people like your Murphys that they've talked about, Hendrick, who you want to get rid of.
Yeah.
You know, you're only going to be getting 2, 3, 5 million or whatever from it, you know, so you need to increase the budget but we know what Ashley's like, and he's going to do it on the cheap and try and squeak in as much as possible for as little as possible, which, you know, will be end up in the situation again next season.
Yeah, I agree. Richard, obviously we spoke in depth about Willock last night as well. Obviously you think, you know, it's probably good for him to move on because of all the other players Arsenal have got. And he has, like you did mention, which I didn't realise, played around about 60 games for Arsenal at such a young age already. And he hasn't really shown enough for you to be in the Arsenal team. I you know, obviously hearing our side of things, do you still feel that way?
I mean, I've been watching him at Newcastle, most of the games that he's played, because I've been interested to see how he's kind of done there, really. You know, a lot of our young players that are out on loan, and I like to keep an eye on how they're doing. And I think he's been a good fit actually for Newcastle. I think he's fitted in well. He's obviously got a lot of important goals as well, hasn't he? As you got on there, you know, 3 goals that's won you a few points, that's maybe kept you up actually. So he's had a big impact. Yeah, he's had a really big impact there, and I don't see that he's had that impact at Arsenal in the time that he's played in our first team. He's actually, I think he's played nearly 80 games actually for us. It's in his 70s, and he scored 11 goals, but only 1 in the Premier League. So he hasn't quite performed to that level consistently for us as he seems to be doing for Newcastle. So I think it's a good fit for him actually. And, you know, you guys obviously like him, and I think he would improve your team. And I personally, as I said to you last night, Baz, I think that he's a good fit for him as a player, and I think it's a good fit for you as a club as well. I think he'll do a good job for you. He looks happy, and I think that would work well. And 20 million, I think, is probably a fair price for him with, you know, the experience that he's had and what he can bring. So hopefully for him, from his point of view, because if he comes back to Arsenal, he's not going to play regular in our first team next season, I don't think. Because we're going to improve our squad. We need to improve our squad. And the midfield's one area we'd have to improve. And he couldn't get a game as it is now when our midfield's poor. So he's not going to get a game next season if we've got 1 or 2 new players in, is he? So I think from his career point of view, he needs to be playing, doesn't he? Like you said, he's 21 years old, nearly 22, I think now. So he needs to be playing football. And he's getting a game at Newcastle, and he's doing well. And he's not going to play for Arsenal. He's not going to get in the team, I don't think. So if the deal can be done, we'll throw St. Maximin in, and we're happy.
We'll come on to him in a little bit. That's the wrong picture. That's the right one. I have to bring in this cabbage of a manager that we still have. I know there's people saying that he should be getting manager of the season because he's got a sitting 17th in the league. It's absolutely mind-numbing, and I have to read this. It's very hard to read it on that screen, but we've been in the bottom half of the division now for a number of years. That's where we are at this particular moment. If we can match last year, we will where we got to, then I think we'll all accept, considering the problems we've had. Can we finish above where we did last year? I doubt it. But considering the problems we've had this year, then I would be delighted if we could get there. It's just like, he sets himself up all the time. I would love to get, higher up in the league. But, I'm a crap manager, so we are where we're at. That's the way I read that. It's mind-numbing. He can't blame the problems in my eyes. It's like Arteta blaming the players for not performing because his coaching's poor. That Steve Bruce had ASM, he had Wilson, he had Fraser, he had all these players all available for key games, and they didn't perform under his tactics. They brought in Graham Jones, who, in my eyes, is giving Bruce a new formation and a new identity into the team, which he's not giving him credit for at all. Bruce has sent them to the stands, he's sent them into the dugout a lot of times, because I don't think they get on, and I think that was personally, I think Ashley wanted Jones to come in to force Bruce's hand to make Bruce walk, and Bruce has given 2 fingers up to Ashley and saying, well, I'm not going unless you actually sack me and pay me off. So it kind of hasn't worked, but it has worked a little bit because we do seem to be playing some better stuff, especially since the Brighton game, because that was just, my head was almost chopped off watching that game. It was dreadful. And I thought that was us down, but for some reason, something turned. We started getting some decent results, a few draws, and a couple of good wins, which has got us 9 points ahead of Fulham and safety in my eyes. But Craig, why is it every week we keep listening to this dross coming from his mouth?
Well, obviously, we're only 8 points off last season's total. We've got 2 very winnable games in Fulham and Sheffield United, so there's 6 points. So we only need 2 points from the other 3 games, and then we've matched last season's total. So it's not a massive statement to say that we can't achieve what happened last season. Last season wasn't a great season, so I don't think comparing it to terrible. This season is it's nothing to be over the moon about. Is finishing 13th on 44 points. It's not it's not great, but with the ownership model that we've got and the funds that we have available, and like I say, it's doing what you can. And I think he's been slated previously for poor performances and not getting results. The last few games, the results and the performances have been better. Then he does deserve a bit of credit. The fact that it's had a look at it and it's taken it away. We've lost 1 game in the last 7. Is it 1 in 7? So you can't just abuse somebody when they're doing bad and then not praise them or give them any credit when they've turned it around. So, I'm not saying it turned it around, but, it's been an improvement and it's come from somewhere, whether it's the manager or, obviously the fact that Maximin and Wilson and Javier and Almiron have come back definitely has helped. I think I was looking with Maximin this season, played 20 games, got 25 points. It's not ideal, but when he hasn't played, we've got 11 points from 13. So there's a clear difference that players do get you points. Better players will get you better performances, and you're gonna accumulate more points.
I'm gonna counteract that, right? And you're not gonna like it, but Rafa Benitez brung us up on a championship squad and kept us in the Premier League for 2 seasons with more points than Steve Bruce has, with a £110 million budget, with St. Maximum, with the squad that he's got now, and he cannot beat Rafa's total. So you can't say to me that better players bring points, because they do, but better managers know how to win with worse players or not as talented players. Imagine if Rafa had ASM and Wilson, where we'd actually finish in the league. This is why I don't like Steve Bruce, is because he relies too much on these key players. And when these key players are injured, we might as well just not bother turning up. And that's how I felt most of the season, going into these games without those players, going, oh God, just get a point. And that's because Steve Bruce doesn't fill me with confidence when these players are out, that he can actually pick a team and mold them with tactics to actually go out and win a game.
That's fair enough. But you look at the caliber, the difference between Rafa Benitez and Steve Bruce. You look at the difference between Rafa Benitez and pretty much 95% of other managers that there are, not just in the Premier League and world football. He's one of the better managers that there has been over the last 10, 15, 20 years. So, you're comparing 2 completely different things. I totally get your point that, better managers can do better things. But, when Rafa Benitez would probably have kept Sheffield United up, possibly, maybe not.
He's not going to walk on water. Come on.
But that's the thing, it's like, it does take something, and other clubs have benefited and they've spent money and improved and done better. And this is where we are. We've got 3 players who are good players and the rest are pretty average. That, you offer any of the teams in the Premier League, do you want any of our players? They'll take ASM, they'll take Almiron, they'll take Wilson, and apart from Steve, who wanted Shelby, That's that's about it, isn't it? There's not a lot of other decent players in there, and that comes from 5-10 years of mismanagement, of not being able to bring the players in. We had before Benitez, they weren't all that great. He came in and he did really well. In the 2.5, 3 seasons that he was there, but he left. He didn't want to stay on. Whether that's his choice or that was a decision made behind his back or what happened there. That was but
his contract ran out, didn't it? And he wasn't getting what he wanted.
He had Newcastle by the balls, and they didn't want to give him what he wanted. But did he ask too much? Did he want more power than he actually wanted to give him? So ultimately he left, and then we had to get somebody in who was never going to be as good as Benitez was. And you put any manager in the Premier League, and they're going to struggle. If Arsenal have got a great team, they're 8th with a team that size and a manager, and it's all relative and it all scales. And without spending 200 million on a new manager and 8 new players, Newcastle are going to be in this situation next season. Which is why we talked about it. We need to be signing players like Willock and all of this kind of thing. That that Shane makes a good point there. That's not a bad option for something like that. And he asked about Gerrard as well. Yeah, I would quite happily.
Well, that's a good point. I would take Gerrard, but Gerrard's not going to leave Rangers when they're in the Champions League.
Yeah. Exactly. So it's you cut your cloth accordingly, and it goes from what the owners want to do and what their ambitions are for the club. And if they're quite happy to finish 17th to 15th, then that's what you're going to have to deal with. And there's as much as it pains me to say, there's not a great deal we can do about it other than do shows like this and whine about them like every week.
We do try not to, but I mean, I can't help it. I have to whinge about him. I really do, because he opens his mouth, and it was especially after the Spurs, and then we beat Burnley, and he said we had back-to-back wins. I was just like, what? You can't draw and win and have back-to-back wins. Brilliant. It's just that's the kind of stuff we've got to put up with. And I'm guessing, Richard, if you had the choice, Steve Bruce would be nowhere near Arsenal.
Well, no, of course he wouldn't. No, I mean, I suppose, it's down to. I think I agree with what Craig quite a lot, actually, because it's down to the ambition of the club, isn't it? The owners, what they want. If obviously Newcastle fans feel that Newcastle deserve more than just finishing between 15th and 17th every year, because you're a big club, you've got a big fan base, you've got a history in the game, and that's obvious. But if the owner of the club hasn't got that ambition, he just wants to stay in the Premier League and that's it, then that's unfortunately what's going to happen, isn't it? You're not going to get a manager in who's going to be able to take the club forward, because it's going to cost more money. And Arsenal's in a similar situation, but the other way around, in the sense that the owners of Arsenal seem to be not particularly bothered about us back being in the top 4 again. They don't seem to be bothered about that particularly. That seems to be the ambition of the club, and that's why we've got a manager who's very inexperienced. I mean, it's funny actually. You're pointing out some stuff that Steve Bruce has said in his press conferences, which does seem a lot of nonsense. But Arteta says exactly the same. We play terribly, lose, and he says, "Oh, we deserve to win. We were the better team." Well, you didn't watch the same game as I just did, mate. So, and he's saying this constantly every week, and other stuff as well. So I don't know. I suppose managers have got their own. They've got to be careful, because they don't want to drop themselves in too much, do they? They don't want to say something that's going to get them into trouble. So they have to be careful with their responses to questions, I guess. And they do come out with some absolute whoppers sometimes, don't they? All of them do. And it's it does make you laugh sometimes. You think, well, how can they actually have said that and be serious? But I think it's just because they can't really say how they really feel half the time, because it would get them in trouble, wouldn't it? Either would get them in trouble with their club, it'd get them in trouble with the Premier League, or get them in trouble with somebody. So they have to maybe say the same cliched responses, really. And I don't know. I don't read too much into what they say at the press conferences now, if I'm honest, just because they're tired. They've got their hands tied behind their back anyway before they come out and do them, really. And it's the same with the players,
isn't it?
Yeah.
We'll never rinse and repeat.
Yeah. But that's unfortunately, we've both got owners at our clubs, I think, that haven't got the same ambition that maybe the fans have got for the club, and haven't got the same ambition that maybe the club had in previous times. And unfortunately, what can you do? You can't, it's difficult to get owners out, isn't it? Unless they want to sell. Your owner seems to want to sell, which is a bonus, I suppose, if you can get that done. Our owner doesn't seem to want to sell at this moment in time. So we'll maybe lumbered a little bit longer, perhaps, for the time being. But I mean, I know your takeover has been a bit of an issue as well, hasn't it? But at least he said he wants to sell, which is a positive, I suppose, from your point of view. Whereas our owners come out flat back and said, no, I don't want to sell. I'm keeping it. So, But,
can't win, can you?
No. I mean, we don't get a say, do we? Unfortunately, as fans, we don't get a say, do we? We don't. Who runs the club is not up to us because we haven't got the money to get involved in that, unfortunately. So we have to rely on the people that do make those decisions and can to make the right decisions for the benefit of the club going forward. And unfortunately, you've haven't had that for a long time, and we're in the same situation now, just at the other end of the scale, maybe just because the ambitions of the two clubs have been different over the years. I think that's the only difference, really. Other than that, it's almost, I can see so many parallels actually with what's going on with you guys at the moment over the last few years and what we're going through now. I think it is very similar in a different kind of level, maybe, but it is. I look at it as being quite similar issues that we both got actually in terms of owners and a few other bits and bobs as well. Really, manager at the moment as well. I think we both got managers we don't particularly think are right and stuff like that. So quite similar. I think we're in a similar place. Unfortunately,
I just think you're quite lucky that you're still able to challenge. And like you say, it might not be the Premier League, but at least you're still FA Cup winners. You're still UEFA Cup.
Yeah, but as I say, we
don't have that joy at all, do we? So
no, exactly. And we are, as I said before, we're fortunate, but we've still dropped down a level from where we were as a club.
Oh,
in the same way that you guys were challenging for the title a few years ago yourselves, wasn't you? Well, a few years ago, but I mean, you were in that
17,
position
18 years ago now. Yeah.
Well, we haven't won it for 16 years, so we're in the same. We've barely challenged since then. So we've kind of dropped down a level, but that's what's happened, hasn't it? Arsenal managed to keep ourselves in the top four for a long time, whereas Newcastle were in there, and you've steadily kind of dropped away. And that's what we're doing now. Actually, when you look at it, in 5-10 years' time, if we've got the same owners, we could be exactly the same situation that you're in now, quite easily. I think. I don't think we'd be far off that unless changes are made, because you can see us heading in that direction. It wasn't that long ago when you was in the Champions League. I can remember Newcastle being in it, finishing the top four and stuff like that, and challenging. You finished above us a few seasons, so and that wasn't. I mean, it was a while ago now, but it wasn't like 50 years ago in history, was it? It was within modern times in the Premier League.
I completely agree. It's just it feels so long ago.
No, it does. It feels long ago we were winning the league. Tell me about it. But it is a long time. But ultimately, it's still fairly recent history, I suppose. You look at how long Newcastle have been going as a club, how long Arsenal have been going and stuff like that. It is fairly recent history, isn't it?
Yeah, it's nice to hear that from another fan, because a lot of the times, we hear from other fans saying that basically Newcastle are living in the past, are living in dream world. They were never a big club, and it just.
That's people that don't understand the history of football. That's people that don't understand the history of football. I mean, I know we've had the European Super League nonsense that's gone on, but some of the teams that were involved in that. I mean, Manchester City and Chelsea, they're modern clubs in a sense. They don't really have much history, do they, going back to the early 1900s and all that kind of stuff, because they wasn't really winning things very often then. And they've got success recently because they've got owners who have bought the success for them, which is modern football, I guess. But, you can't replace 100 years of history that Newcastle have got, that Arsenal have got, and other clubs have got. You can't replace that. And every club goes through good spells where you're winning things and you're challenging, and other spells in your history where you're not doing so well and you have bad times. And most clubs go through that. I mean, Chelsea will go through it again. They've been through it before. Man City as well. We're going through a bit of a bad time now, which probably isn't a bad time in the overall scheme of things, but it's bad for us. You're going through a bad time as well at this moment. So, but it is, you can't change the history of the clubs. You can't. Newcastle will always be a big club in English football. One, because of the success that you've had. You've won league titles, you've won FA Cups, you've won a European trophy as well. So you've got history there in English football that can never be taken away. You've got a big fan base in England, certainly, and around the world. And it's if that shirt you've got behind you, if you show that anywhere in the world, everyone would know Newcastle United straight away. Recognisable. And that's because of the history that the club's got. And you can't take that away. And that's not just Newcastle. There's other clubs as well. Your Aston Villas and other Everton, historic clubs in English football that wasn't considered for this European Super League because they're not playing in Europe at the moment. Just goes to show what a load of rubbish that was, because it's not to do with that, really, is it? it's football's been around a lot longer than the last 5 years or 10 years or 20 years. It's been around for 150, 160 years, isn't it? Football, top class football in the world, and that all needs to be taken into account, I think. And for me, you can't take that away. Clubs that have had that history, it's always there. It'll always be there. The history books are not going to change. The future will, and maybe if in 100 years' time Newcastle are in League Two and they've been in League Two for 50 years, then maybe they won't be considered a big club anymore. But until that's the case, they always will. And although even Sunderland, look where they are now. They've still got a great history. They've won league titles. They've won FA Cups. They've got a rich history in English football, going back a long time, a very long time for them. But it's still part of history of English football, and it's important. And you can't just wipe that away just because they're having a bad time at any club. I don't think.
No, I agree. I absolutely agree. And it's just frustrating.
No, it is massively frustrating.
Craig knows what it's like, because we've been and sat in the pubs, talked about it, watched it, lived it, and then this happened. But this brings me on to a bit of go on, Craig.
It is like it's part of being a football fan, and like you said, Richard, when you first started watching Arsenal, they weren't a big six club. They weren't like that. I mean, so it is quite cyclical with football. That, and there's obviously Liverpool and Man United, you could say, are probably the two biggest clubs, and they have been for the last 60 years. But they've had spells. Well, Man United got relegated, didn't they? And they had years they haven't won anything. Liverpool didn't win the league for 30 years, and they'd always kind of been there and thereabouts, and that. And Man City have been into League One, and Chelsea have been up and down, and Newcastle, Arsenal, I mean, they haven't been relegated, have they? So they've kind of about the only one, them and Everton. But it's the way it goes, and when the money's coming into it now, and that's kind of what is driving this big six, that they're the clubs that have the vast amount of money that they can just keep that one step ahead of everybody else. And you're never going to get. You look at teams like Leicester and West Ham, there's always going to be the odd season where somebody comes in and snips in there. They'll get a bit of luck. A few teams will lose a manager, have a bit of, maneuverability. But the Premier League, you look at it and it's exciting because there is 6 teams plus a few more that can win the league, that are challenging for Europe. That, you look in places like, well, maybe not France now, but PSG have won the league for the last 8 years. Bayern Munich have won the league for the last 9 years. Juve have won it. And there's only 2 or 3 clubs in those leagues who are ever going to win the league. You might get, like I say, a few creeping in here and there, and every now and again you'll get challenged for a few seasons. But the Premier League and its history and the things like that, it's always been the fact that anybody can beat anybody, and it's always been said that you look at Arsenal against Fulham. I say Granada beat Barcelona the other night, but it doesn't happen an awful lot in these European countries, and that's why the Premier League and the English football pyramids. And you look at the pyramids, you're going down to League Two, and there's teams in there. Bolton are in League Two, and they were in the Premier League 10 years ago. League One, you've got Ipswich. You wait for cup within our lifetime. Forest won 2 European Cups, 20, 30 years ago. There's massive clubs that have been up. They've been up, and now they've come down, and there'll be a chance, and they'll come back. But it's getting harder and harder for some of the smaller clubs because the money at the top, and in the Premier League and the Champions League, there's a ceiling for everybody else, and it's going to cost. Teams are going to have to come up, and I go on about it, but Newcastle need to spend, for them to finish anywhere really above 15th. You're going to have to spend a great deal of money, or you get somebody like Rafa Benitez, like a manager who can take a team there, but they're not going to want to. They don't want how Ashley managed to get Rafa Benitez into Newcastle United or then 5 years ago. Don't know how it must have been a few De Niro's.
Real Madrid, it's crazy.
Offering in there, So the big managers, the good managers, are always going to go really to the big clubs where the money is, whether it's in this country or abroad. So you're scratching around for your Steve Bruces, or you're looking, Chris Wilder did well. This the guy at Brentford. You're gonna have to take a punt on some of these managers, and even a club the size of Arsenal couldn't manage to get. You've ended up with Arteta, whether I don't know whether he was first choice or 14th choice like Bruce was, but again it comes down to the
money,
the ambition of the club, and it comes down to what they want to do. And I think
money they want to spend,
listen to what you were saying. Listening to last week the Liverpool guy. Even then, your successful teams don't like the manager, or not the manager, the owner. They've got issues with the ownership. They've got, the ambitions are still calling them out. And it's like, well, what do fans want, And it's, and are the owners, different mentalities, what they want to do, whether they want to be creating super leagues and just creaming off all the money, or do they want to be football fans? And that's football, it's football. That's why we love it, and that's why we talk about it.
It's a good point you made before, actually, about the sort of English, the Premier League and stuff. If you look at the other sort of top leagues in Europe, say Italy and Spain and Germany, you look at the teams that's won the Champions League or the European Cup in history. It's the same teams that are winning it now or challenging for it now. Whereas in England, like you said, we've had Nottingham Forest win the European Cup. We've had Ipswich win European trophies. We've had, Newcastle won a European trophy. So you don't get that in other countries. Haven't really got that, have they? In Holland, the teams that win the European trophies in Holland are always Ajax or Feyenoord or PSV. PSV, and in France, it's going to be PSG, or in maybe previously they've had
Monaco for a while,
Monaco, but it's the same sort of clubs, and they're generally the top 6 or 7 clubs in their league every season. You don't look, if you look in the second division in France, I bet there's no team that's won a European trophy there. If you look in the second division in Spain or Italy, there won't be a European Cup winner in there. But you look in the second division in England, and there's 2 or 3 European trophy winners, and that just shows how the strength of English football in history, how we've and maybe how it's kind of gone wrong, because these clubs shouldn't be struggling in the second tier, should they? Because they've got that history, and it hasn't happened in other countries. And maybe we need to look at that as well, and look at why some of our previously successful clubs are now struggling. And it's literally to do with the money, isn't it? We know that's the reason, but that needs to be addressed, because it's not made it a fair competition in many ways, has it? And we're going to end up, our league's going to end up the same in years to come, where you're not going to get at the teams that win European trophies or challenge for European trophies from the English Premier League. Will end up being the same 3 or 4 clubs every year. We won't get anybody else ever doing it, because it's become a closed shop. And the European Super League, in a way, was a closed shop, but that's almost what it's going to become anyway. The new Champions League, with the league format starting in 2024, is basically a European Super League anyway, and it's going to be a closed shop. You're going to get the same 15 clubs in it every year anyway. So almost what they was trying to bring through, it's going to happen in any case. It is. And I don't like that at all, because I like the fact that Nottingham Forest have won a European Cup. I think that's great. And it's great for English football. And it'd be great if a club like that could do it again. But I can't see when that would ever happen. Just because how they're going to finish in the top 4 to get into Europe in the first place. They might win the FA Cup, maybe, possibly. Someone might. It's possible, but I don't know. Football's going in the wrong direction, and it's going in the wrong direction rather quickly now. It's been building up since the start of the Premier League, probably, but it's actually shooting into that now, and I don't like it, actually. And I think it's damaging for, when you look further down the pyramid in English football, it's in a mess. And yes, the COVID situation has made it worse, but it was in a mess before. And nobody seems to care, because the Premier League don't care. The Premier League got the ump about the European Super League because they wasn't really involved in it. But they haven't done enough for all the clubs that are, the FA, all them clubs in League 2 and beyond, in non-league and stuff like that, they're all part of the FA, but they don't get any help. They don't get money filled with that, not enough. They get a little bit of pieces. And it's all wrong. It's completely wrong, it is. And it's going to end up, unfortunately, football's always going to eat itself, I believe. And I don't know how far away that is. It seems to be coming really close at the moment, actually. And I think the situation over the last year has probably escalated it. Can we get it back on track again, or move it away from that? I'm not sure now. I think that there's too much money and too much greed at the top. And I don't know. I worry for the future of football, actually. I worry for, the future generation of fans, maybe the young kids now. that are going to grow up, what football are they going to have to watch in 10 to 15 years' time? What's it going to be like? They're never going to experience football in the same way that we did. And, they're never going to, if you're a fan of Nottingham Forest, for example, I feel a bit sorry for the younger fans now, because they're never going to know what that felt like to have a team like that, because it will never happen in their lifetime probably again, ever. I know it's happened to Leicester and that you could use that as an example, but how many more Leicesters are we going to have realistically?
Yeah,
I don't think we'll have any more, unfortunately.
No, I think you're right. I mean, we've been saying it for years, haven't we, Craig, that football's going to implode because the money's just getting ridiculous. And I think the Super League has opened up that door, and I think we're in. But if football does get like that, I'd probably end up turning off.
Yeah. But you talk about the Super League getting like that, but I mean, the Premier League is as well. They just want money. That's all they're involved in, is making money for, the clubs and themselves and all that. And I heard they were talking about the parachute payments. Norwich and Watford have been promoted, so next year they don't get the parachute payments. So there's £80 million that goes back to the Premier League. So they're quite happy that they've been promoted.
But apparently it's being shared out between all the places in the Premier League. So
an extra £2 million. So everybody's happy with that.
And the Premier League wanting to punish them 6 clubs, and it's like, well, get your own house in order first before you start punishing other people. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm not saying that the Super League was the right thing, because it wasn't. Clearly, it wasn't, and I was totally against it. But for the Premier League to start taking a moral high ground with the way that they're run as an organisation is an absolute joke. And Sky as well, getting involved as well. It's like, come on, look at how you're running your business. Look how you're doing it. You can't really complain about that, because it's exactly the same. It's just that you wasn't involved, so you don't like it. At the end of the day, that's the way it is, isn't it? And it's crazy, really. That was winding me up, that when the Premier League said, well, we need to punish them 6 clubs. We'll get your own house in order first before you start looking at punishing us. We probably deserve to be punished in some way, to be fair, to be involved in that. I would take a punishment, because we probably deserve it, really. But for the Premier League to start coming out, and everybody else, and Sky and all these people that have killed football anyway from a financial point.
The ones who set it all off.
Yeah. Right, moving on, because we're running out of time, guys. I would like Richard to talk through his starting 11, please. I've uploaded it for you.
Looks good.
Does that look about right? How it would, the formation?
Yeah,
would look?
I mean, essentially, that was sort of the formation, pretty much as it would be roughly. I'm assuming that I'm basing this on the fact that the game comes between the 2 European ties, and I think I've picked a lot of players in the team for tomorrow that maybe didn't play much or didn't play at all on Thursday. So the 2 central defenders haven't played much lately. So I think he'll throw them in. Bellerin hasn't played much. I think he'll throw him in at right back. The left back situation, there's possibility that Kieran Tierney might be fit, actually. Would you want to risk him or save him for Thursday? I'm not sure. If he's fit, maybe give him a game, because he could probably do with a run out maybe ahead of Thursday. But if not, I will put Cedric there and put Xhaka in the midfield. Ceballos is suspended Thursday, so you might as well play him. Rest Thomas Partey, because Ceballos can't play on Thursday anyway. Odegaard, it was his first start on Thursday after being injured. He looked a little bit off the pace. I think he needs the minutes, so I would play him, rest Smith Rowe and rest Saka, who are both really important for Thursday. Pepe's been playing quite well. Maybe keep him in the team while he's doing quite well. Martinelli's not playing much, to stick him in. And Aubameyang's not fit, apparently. He could probably do it in minutes as well, but apparently he's not fit. So Lacazette's still out as well, and I wouldn't even risk him for this game. So I would probably just go with Nketiah, just on the basis that this is a team that probably you're not risking too many players for Thursday, which to me is more important. There's not many of them that would probably play Thursday. I mean, the goalkeeper like Ryan, I'll stick him in again because, give Leno another break and get everybody focused on Thursday. Xhaka's the only one maybe you'd think maybe start both games. He tends to start every game, so he'd be the one. But I mean, some of them I would play Thursday as well, actually. Maybe David Luiz, I'd probably stick in Thursday as well. Martinelli I'd play more often because I think he's great. Odegaard as well. But yeah, I don't think that'll be the team Arteta will pick. I don't think it will, because he tends to throw loads of strange ones in. But I wouldn't be surprised if it was something maybe similar to that, possibly. I mean, Xhaka might be left back again. That's the only thing, maybe. But who would play in midfield if that's the case? I don't know. Maybe Smith Rowe. I don't know. But that's what I kind of came up with, thinking that the 2 Thursday night games for me are probably more of a priority for Arsenal. So
Yeah.
But there's a lot of changes there from Thursday night starting lineup. I think 7 or 8 changes there is there. And I wouldn't be surprised if we make that many. So, but that wouldn't be a bad team actually when you look at it. It's a Premier League team that played a lot of games for the club. So I think we'll be competitive with that team. Whether we can win or not, I'm not sure. But that would be a competitive team for this game. And I don't want him to risk too many others just in case, because an injury now and our season's over.
Yeah, I agree. I think Thursday is more important, which we'll come on to when we talk about our predictions. So, Craig, there's your team. This is what you think Bruce will do. Do you want to just quickly go through it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be unchanged. I think that's
unchanged,
an unchanged
isn't it?
that I've looked at. Yeah, I think the only issue we've talked about, I think Richie might have had a bit of a knock during the week, might not start. So I don't know whether if he doesn't start, whether Manquillo might come in or he might switch Dummett over to the left and like Shaw's back. Whether he can get in, but might be a bit too small. Lewis, forgot about Lewis. He hasn't been about, has he? Again, so I think it's like I say, Shaw's back. He's a good defender, but might be a bit too early. Might come on a bit too soon. I think up front again, those three that caused troubles. I know you'd mentioned about Almiron maybe resting Almiron. He hasn't performed well. I'd say before he hasn't really done anything. He runs around and creates space and causes trouble that way. But his end product and actual what he's actually done hasn't been all that telling in the last few matches. So that might be a Joe Linton instead. Go up front with Maximin and Wilson. Maximin's been starting the last few games. Wilson's come back from fitness. So whether the two of them go up top. But I think it's going to be a similar side to something looking like that, I think. And, I think we've got to... There's not, like we've talked before, there's not a great deal of depth of like-for-like good quality players that can come in for that. I mean, Richard's gone on about, he's changed half a dozen players in that Arsenal side, and, you'd probably take half of those in our team, and they're reserves. And that's the difference between, clubs at the bottom and clubs at the top, that it's not just about the 11, it's about the 15, it's about the 18, it's about the 25, and that's why they're near the top, because they can rotate, and it's been a weird, long, tough season for these players. So we've started the same team for the last 3 matches, and going into the end of the season, they've got to be tired, and it's going to be hard. But you haven't got the quality, especially in if you're in the mid-table and you're safe, you can maybe throw in a few people. I know there's clamour for Anderson. I know you've talked about playing Anderson a couple of times, and it might be he played well against Arsenal in the cup game, didn't he? I think that was his game. So maybe that's what you need to do towards the end of the season. I don't know who else we've got in the unders. I think they got absolutely trounced by Villa in the week. Drew with a Matt.
There's Matty Longstaff as well. He'll probably make the bench because Willock can't make the bench. So if we are needing a goal, we haven't got our super sub, unfortunately, this week. But so looking at the table, surely after Fulham getting beat, we're safe.
You would hope so, wouldn't you? I mean, that's 9 points. That's 4 games. I mean, they've got to win. I know they play us in the last game, which
we've got to win 3 games and hopefully their goal difference. I mean, if they win 3, the goal difference would be better, wouldn't it? Because it means we would have lost as well. So they need to win 3 unless to lose 3, and
that's what it is. But I mean, I don't know who they've got left, and we've talked about it for the last. They've been playing reasonably well, but they just haven't been getting the results that maybe deserved, I suppose. I mean, it's just when you lose a 97th minute goal to Arsenal when you've been winning for most of the game. I mean, that's the kind of luck and performances that gets you relegated, isn't it? If they hold out there and see that game out, then that gives them a good boost in the step. But to lose that goal, that's devastating for your morale and your confidence. And like you say, I like Fulham. I would like them to stay up. I would like Burnley to go down. So but it's going to go. We should be. You don't want to count your chickens, do you? Because as soon as we say we're safe, we're going to absolutely implode and lose the last 5 games and what have you. But, you know, you'd like to think that there's enough there and there's a gap that we should be safe enough.
There you go. So potentially they could win 3 games. They could beat Southampton. They could beat Burnley, and they could beat us. But they're not going to be Man United. So if they win those 3 games and we lose,
depends if Man United
another point.
Depends if Man United are in the Europa League final, because they might rest a few players. So you never know. I mean, what's interesting about that league table actually, it's just struck me there. If you beat us tomorrow, we've only lost 1 less game than you.
Yeah, and we climbed to 13th.
Yeah,
and only you're 7 points behind.
You might finish above us yet. If you beat us
10 points to catch you guys. I don't think we've got 10 points in us.
It would be 7. So if you win tomorrow, it'd be 7, wouldn't it? It'd be 7. And if we're in the Europa League final, we might not win another league game.
Yeah, possibly. You never know. You just never know. But yeah, so that's the league table. That's the positions. Obviously, Arsenal are probably 11th at the moment because Everton are still drawing with Villa. I mean, obviously, your season again it's just the losses, isn't it? Really, it's you've won plenty of games. You've lost too many as well. It's turning those losses into draws and getting those draws into wins, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I mean, we've lost far too many games. I say if we do lose tomorrow, which I wouldn't be surprised, then I say Newcastle would only have lost 1 more game than us, and you've been struggling against relegation for the last 3 months. It just goes to show how we're not actually that much better off. Yes, we won a few more games, but that's literally down to draws, isn't it? We haven't drawn that. I mean, you've only drawn 9 actually. I mean, we've drawn 7. And it seems to be Fulham 13 draws, hasn't it? If Fulham had won half their games that they've drawn, they'd be out the bottom 3, wouldn't they? So
comfortably.
Yeah. So it's fine margins anyway, isn't it? I mean, look at Brighton as well. They've drawn a lot of games, haven't they? If they'd won half of them, they'd be in the top half of the table, wouldn't they? Brighton would. So it's. I mean, yeah, we've lost far too many games. We haven't, played well enough over the course of the league season. We could finish even as low as 12 or 13, well, 12 maybe. You could see Wolves possibly catching us. They're not miles behind, 5 points. And if we are in the final, then we will be rotating the squad for the final few league games. So we might not win too many of them. So either way, even if we manage to finish 9th or 8th, it's still no improvement on last season, is it, for us? So, yeah, it's disappointing. And the Europa League might, as I said before, save everybody's kind of season, really, if that's possible. And in terms of you guys, I mean, I think you're safe now. I do. I feel, like you said, 9 points is a lot to make up. They've only got 4 games left, Fulham. I know 1 is against you guys, but even if you happen to lose tomorrow, I still can't see Fulham making that up. They've only won 5 all season. Are they going to win 3 more in the last 4?
Yeah,
I doubt it. Even though they're playing some teams that you could look at and say, yeah, potentially they could win them, but they've only won 5 all season. They might draw 2 or 3 of them, but I can't see them winning personally.
Yeah.
So I think you're safe. I think if you win tomorrow, you're definitely safe.
Yeah, I think we're safe anyway. I said it on my last on one of my videos. I said, look, I'm saying it now. We're safe, and they can put it on repeat when we're not, and absolutely hammer me for it. But we're safe. Yeah, exactly. So, guys, to end the show, predictions, please. Richard, what are you going for? I know you predicted last night. I think you predicted a 2-1 loss, didn't you? 2-0.
Yeah, I said 2-1 to Newcastle, just because I can see this game being very similar to the last time you beat us, actually, which was in between 2 Europa League games that we had. And although the squad wasn't rotated as much that particular time, minds are focused elsewhere. And I think Arsenal's focus is on Thursday. And we are going to make changes to the team. And I don't think we're going to be able to. I think your desire to win, because if you win, you're safe, definitely. Yeah. And you've got Wilson back in your team. So now, I despite me maybe feeling a little bit more optimistic today than I was yesterday, because that was obviously the night after we'd lost the Real game. I am feeling slightly more positive today, maybe, about it, but I still can't see us winning simply because the game means more to you and our minds elsewhere, and we will rotate the team. So I'm going to stick with a 2-1 win to Newcastle, just because I feel that that's probably where we are at this moment in time with the game where it is. It'd be better if we didn't have to play it, if I'm honest. Just get the 2 European games played and play the league games after. But we've got to play it, so it's probably in your advantage, actually, because I don't think we'll be as competitive as we might have been. I think it'll be a close game, and the team I picked there, if it's something like that, we can give you a game. But I just think your desire to win this game is going to be greater than ours. And that's probably going to decide it. So, yeah, I'll go 2-1 to Newcastle. Hope I'm wrong, but I'm not
We
wrong.
hope you're right.
Well, I might well be right. I've been right about quite a few games, actually, recently, the scores. I've been doing quite well. I'm hoping I'm wrong this time, but you never know.
Craig, what are you going for, mate?
Well, I think we mentioned, I think this is a pretty good time to be playing Arsenal at the minute, and obviously with their, mind elsewhere on, trying to qualify for the final and get into the Champions League possibly. But I do think even that team, they're probably just a little bit too strong for us. I know we've been in decent form recently. We've been playing reasonably quite well. So I think, after a few weeks of real positivity and predicting some wins, I'm going to revert back to normal, back to standard, and go for the 1-1, which I think.
Oh yeah,
I think
offense.
I'll sit back on the fence on the 1-0. I think that would be a good result for us. I think it would quite happily take a 1-0. I think it does depend on maybe the lineup that Arsenal do go with, whether, they're not going to qualify for the Champions League through the league. They're not going to get relegated. It is nothing real.
I called it a dead rubber last night, didn't I, on your show, Richard?
Well, yeah,
and for you, it's exactly.
So, it's for not us. It's not. We need to.
For us, it's an inconvenience having this game, and I just feel as though that's going to be the mindset of everyone. So I'd be confident if I were you to beat us today, tomorrow. I'd be confident, definitely.
But then you've got those players who are coming in. They're going to want to be playing for their chance to get in the semi-final, get to the final. So it could work that way. But it's like you say, we don't really have a decent record against Arsenal at St James's Park either. So I think I'll be happy with a 1-0.
It's not too bad. We've got a lot of draws.
We've got a few draws. We've won an awful lot. One in the last 6, I think, last 7. Obviously, the 4-0 draw, we've got that. And
Dietmar Hamann scored a couple of equalisers before he went off to Liverpool.
Yeah, we won the first 3, I think. I'm looking there. Won the first 3 in the last few years, but we don't have a great record against many of the top teams. But
that's true. This is very true. I mean, that's what I loved about Rafa so much, is that he was able to win points against the teams around us. I think he never lost a game against a team around us, but then when he played against the top 6, he just defended for our lives, and we ended up losing 1 or 2-0, and our goal difference was better. So we knew what we were expecting. But I said on Richard's channel, and I'm going to say it again, I'm really, really positive about this game. And this is a game I targeted because of the Europa League. And I said if they're in between the semi-final and they're still within a chance, which you've got a huge chance on Thursday night, because you only need 1 goal and you're through, because you've got that away goal. I think Arteta sees that as his only option. And I think he'll put a very weak team out, and I think he'll drop most of the players that will play for Thursday because he doesn't want to risk any injuries. And I still think it'll be a thriller, and I think it'll be 3-2 to Newcastle. I don't know why. I just think 3-2. That scoreline seems to stick in my head quite a lot at the moment. I think we've got goals in us. Wilson, ASM are starting together. I think our defence is still a bit dodgy every now and again, so we will leak goals. So that's why I think it'll be another 3-2 thriller. You're
missing Willox, though, aren't you? Willox come on and got your goals in recent games to get your points, isn't he? Yeah. Obviously, you're not going to have that tomorrow. You need someone else to do his job tomorrow, won't you? You'll need someone to step up in the Willox shoes and get the goals.
Someone will.
You'll be training him during the week, won't he? Training, how do you do a Willock? That's what his training.
Yeah, how do you do a Willock? Yeah, how do you go into the box, just like Rob Lee used to do in that? But yeah. Excellent. It's been a great show, guys. Richard, thank you very much for coming. Just want to plug your channel very quickly. I know some Newcastle fans have been watching in that, but if they wanted to watch Arsenal, obviously your channel is available.
Yeah, no, it's called Over and Over and Over Again. I do obviously mostly Arsenal content, obviously match reviews, match previews and stuff. I look at the history of the club as well, go back in time to, some important moments. Because I feel, as I said earlier on in this show, the history of football is really important, and Arsenal's history to me is really important as well. It's why I support the club as well as much as anything else. So, that's on my channel Over and Over and Over Again. And funny enough, you say that. Obviously, I know it's mostly Newcastle fans watching this. I was on the Sprint Review yesterday, and on the back of that, I think I got 3 or 4 new subscribers just on the back of being on the Toon Review. So, which is great. And if people want to get involved in my channel and watch some stuff on there as well, it's good. I've got a preview of the Newcastle game on, actually, a video I did came out this morning, so you can check that out, see what my thoughts on the game, a bit of history, the previous results, and that kind of stuff. And obviously, I will be doing a watch along tomorrow at the game. I know, obviously, I think you're doing as well, aren't you, Baz, on this channel. So I'm also actually covering the Arsenal women as well. So if you like women's football, I do cover a lot of that stuff as well, because I'm actually enjoying that more, because there's no VAR, and it's more, for me, it's more real football. When there's a goal scored, it's a goal. You don't have to worry about if we've got to wait for 5 minutes to get VAR's decision. So I've been enjoying that a lot more, especially this season with everything that's going on. So I do. And Arsenal women are playing tomorrow as well, so I'm going to be covering that game as well. If they win, they'll be in the Champions League, so it's an important game there. So if you like women's football, maybe check it out as well, because I do. Oh, Villa are winning, brilliant, excellent. That's what I needed to see as well. So we are definitely 11th now.
Yep, unfortunately. No watch along for me. I'm at work tomorrow, so I will be doing tomorrow night with Johnson, Claire and Annie. We'll be doing a live drop-in to discuss the fixture, basically the game, the result, and let people come on for 5 minutes and have their say. So if anyone's interested in doing that, that'll be from 8:15 tomorrow night. That should be fun. But Richard, thank you very much for coming on. Craig, as always, thanks for being my Toon guy. It's been a pleasure. I'll just pop this in the background and I'll finish up.
Thank you.
So, guys, that's a look ahead. Went on a little bit longer, but we had lots of stuff to talk about, and it's been a great show. Richard's been a great sport coming on and talking about things. Anne's gone for a 2-1 win tomorrow. I still think 3-2. I don't know why. Get your money on it. Get your bin lids on it. It's going to be 3-2. Earn yourself about 25 quid or something. It'll be 25 to 1. It's going to happen. I promise you. But yeah, great show. Going to be a massive game for us tomorrow, like Richard said. Arsenal have got a massive game on Thursday, and it's no disrespect to Newcastle that Arteta will be looking at that, and I completely agree with everything he said there. So let's just hope we turn up, do our job, and then we'll be 12 points ahead of Fulham, guaranteed safety in my eyes, and we can just concentrate on getting this takeover done, get Bruce out of the club, and let's start winning some Premier Leagues and Champions Leagues and FA Cups so we can rub it in everyone's faces. But good night, everyone. Thanks for watching.